Premium American-made knives made with materials like titanium and carbon fiber are inherently expensive. You don't just pay some of the money, you pay all of the money. If only there was a company that made premium American-made knives that didn't charge both an arm and a leg to make it happen. If only. Well, the good news is that knife actually does exist. Let's go ahead and talk about the TRM frame lock Neutron 2.
This is Sparta!
Hey, how's it going, everybody? If you're new here, welcome in, and if you've been here before, smash the like button on the way in. I'm Rollshambo, the connoisseur and collector of all things sharp and shiny, and I'm excited today because we've got a new version of one of my favorite knives. This is the Three Rivers Manufacturing Neutron 2 frame lock. That's right, we have one here on the channel, and I'm excited because I did not think that I would be getting my hands on one of these for quite a while. You see, whenever Three Rivers, or TRM as I'll refer to them throughout the rest of the video, whenever they have a brand new knife release, they sell out and they stay sold out for quite a while because there is an avid following for their products. Big shout out and a thank you to them again for sending it my way. I am very excited to talk about it, and I am a gigantic fan of the Neutron 2. This is my Neutron 2 that I bought and paid for with my own money, and then later upgraded the pocket clip on. This is a very limited edition of the Neutron 2 in the lizard skin titanium, but also with the DLC coated blade and the black accents. They only did so many of these, and this was one of my favorite knives of last year, period. I called this the Grail Killer. This is one of those knives that's very, very hard to keep out of my pocket. So the real question is the frame lock Neutron 2 a good variant? Is it a better variant than the liner lock? Is it worth the hype? Is it worth your money? That's exactly what we're going to talk about today. Now, I'm super excited because they have made several changes aside from just the lock on their frame lock Neutron 2. But before we get started, you might be wondering, okay, well, you know, that looks kind of premium, titanium frame lock with carbon fiber inserts and a carbon fiber show side. Rollshambo, what's the damage? The frame lock Neutron 2 is going to be coming in at $340. Made 100% here in the United States, especially using titanium manufactured by TRM's sister company, which just happens to be a titanium manufacturing company. That means that the scales are made by TRM. That means that the clip is made by TRM, or at least their sister company. And that's really cool to me. You know, one of the things that I've been spewing for years is that I just wish that Spyderco would do more titanium American-made knives. And by contrast, Spyderco is a massive company, and yet they don't. They shove that work off onto their international counterparts, but not TRM. TRM does it a bit differently. They make everything right here in the United States, and for the parts and the pieces that aren't made by them, they also source those locally from the United States. So this knife overall is going to be coming in at just over 7 inches according to my tape measure, and it's going to be weighing somewhere in the realm of about 2.8 or 2.9 ounces. The cutting edge itself is coming in at 3 inches, but depending upon where you measure it by, the actual blade itself might be just a little bit more than 3 inches. The part that matters is 3 inches. The blade is featuring this CPM MagnaCut flat ground blade, and we also have a double-sided thumb stud for deployment. I do want to mention that the Neutron 2 does not come with these little rubber bands that go over the thumb studs. These are just extras that I had lying around. Take it from me, if you get a Neutron 2, whether it be the frame lock or the liner lock, go ahead and pick up a set of these rubber bands. Trust me, the thumb studs are perfect with them. As I previously mentioned, the handle scales are these really nicely texturized carbon fiber handle scales. And on first glance, you might look at these handle scales and wonder, oh, is that G10? But no, it is actually texturized carbon fiber, and that's much easier to see when you start looking at the chamfering on these handle scales. These are slab style. These are not in fact contoured like they are on the lizard skin titanium scales. However, I can tell you that I've already tested it out and verified the TRM Neutron 2 scale replacements will fit. So yes, you can in fact take a lizard skin show side titanium handle scale and fit it over on the show side. But you might not want to do that because you don't necessarily need it to be more premium, especially when the lock side is this gorgeous milled titanium, and you can kind of see the milling lines there really coming through, especially on this lock side. And it's kind of a radial milling pattern that I think is absolutely gorgeous. TRM is a big fan of doing function over form on a lot of their knives, if not all of their knives, and the use of washers, or as some people would call them, thrust bearings, is that it's going to be more reliable over time than something like ball bearings, because washers don't allow for as much space between the blade and the handle scales, meaning that it's much less likely that you're going to get gunk or dust or debris in between your handle scales and the blade of the knife. That's great. It means that the action is going to stay smooth and that over time it will, of course, work into a really nice, smooth, glassy action. The screw set on here includes one T8 pivot, and it is a single-sided captive pivot, hallelujah. And then we have two T6 body screws right here and more T6 screws on the liners and frame below. Something that is new for the frame lock Neutron 2 is a clamshell design. Your eyes do not deceive you. It looks like it has a titanium backspacer, but that's because they actually did something that I've been asking for ever since I saw it on the TRM Shadow, and that is a clamshell design where we get the titanium coming up and connecting with the show side scale, and that is nearly full length. We have a G10 backspacer for comparison here on my liner lock Neutron 2, and that one doesn't go up nearly as far. I'm really glad to see that this one has some extra protection there, not only for ergonomics so that the meat of your palm doesn't slip between the scales, but also to protect the edge of the blade when it's in your pocket. See that? There's no way that coins and keys and crap are going to ding up the edge of your blade just when you go to put it in your pocket. And while we're on the topic of putting it in your pocket, the clip also got a bit of an upgrade. They went with the same clip that they used on the TRM Bulldog, and I have to say that aesthetically speaking, not only does it work really, really well, but it also fits the nature of the knife really, really well. Now, something that TRM does a really good job of is using clip screw hole patterns that fit other popular knives. For example, on the liner lock Neutron 2, they use the same pattern as you can find on many benchmates. It's the tri-screw pattern. That's why I was able to take this one and add in a Lynch Northwest pocket clip. For the Bulldog clip, I do think that that's going to fit a ProTech screw pattern, but I'm not entirely sure, so don't quote me. Aside from the use of the Bulldog clip on the Neutron 2, they also did something that I asked for on previous models, and that is to do a cutout for the clip so that it sits flush with the handle scales. Look at that. That means that it's going to go in and out of the pocket just fine. There's also no mushrooms growing in the shade, as they have used flat top T6 screws to secure the clip to the body of the Neutron 2. But how's the quality of life? Well, let's go ahead and check it out. We've got good blade centering. We also have solid lockup, and that's kind of the whole point of moving to a frame lock, right? A frame lock is more robust than a liner lock. It's going to be something that's more reliable, more hardcore, and it really does a good job of leaning into the function over form aspect of this knife. Believe it or not, the Neutron is their most popular knife model to date, more popular than the Shadow, more popular than the Atom. It's their most popular knife model, and they even say so on their website. So how did the frame lock do? Well, on this one, I want to say that lockup on here is going to be coming in somewhere around the 25% mark, and it might not look like it, but that's because the blade stock is actually very thin. It's the same blade stock as, the other Neutron 2s out there. It's about 90 thousandths thick. But the steel lock bar insert is making full contact with the blade stock, and that's great. It means that we've got absolutely no wiggle, no jiggle. It's locked up and locked out. The action on here is going to be washer action. That is to say that it's going to take some time to break in, but the good news is that this is such an enjoyable knife to carry that breaking it in is going to be just a matter of time and patience and just getting some nice use out of the knife. A knife being fidgety is a result of it being well made, because well-made knives tend to get carried and tend to get used, and the more you carry and use a knife, the more fidgety it is by nature. But I'm pretty sure that that wasn't their intention when they made this knife. They intended to make their most popular model even stronger, even more robust for those carry fanatics out there, and I think that they did a rather nice job. So is there anything that I would point to as a complaint? And you know what? I could really only think of one or two things, and honestly, they're minor things that wouldn't keep me from wanting to buy a second one of these knives in a heartbeat. It's going to be the use of T6 body screws. Now, T6 body screws are often the ones that strip on knives. I haven't had that experience with this one. I have taken the show side scale off to try on the lizard skin titanium show side scale. And so I can tell you that there's no extra Loctite that you have to be worried or concerned about. It's not like they super glued the pivot or anything of that nature, but I would still like to have just T8 screws all the way around. One screw head fits all. That would be perfect. The next thing is that I do think that they need to consider, at the very least, pre-installing the rubber bands that go over the thumb studs. Yes, you can use this without them, but the thumb studs are very uncomfortable without the use of these rubber bands. And honestly, not all of the rubber bands fit the same. For example, I used these white ones here on my other TRM Neutron, and these are perfect. They don't mush up too hard against the scales. They don't affect the action at all. They're very comfortable, and they provide a very snappy action with those thumb studs. These are the leftover bands that I had from the last band pack that I ordered with this knife, and I can tell you that while the black one fits really well, the blue one is kind of mushed up against the frame lock side of that handle scale, and so it's not the best. You know, I would have preferred to have two black ones in that pack as well, but they just weren't there. I don't think there should be any question. I think that they should pre-install some bands that fit, that won't interfere with the handle scales whatsoever. And if they want to provide options to people, just throw in a pack of these with every knife, and that's some way that people could automatically right out of the box customize their knife experience. It's not a very expensive thing, and if they really wanted to, they could just add it on to the price of the knife for a couple extra bucks. But other than those two things, I don't really have anything bad to say about this knife. The cut test on here shows just how slicey and dicey the Neutron 2 is. They kept the blade geometry and the blade shape, and they did a very good job on that factory edge. The MagnaCut really shines through on the Neutron 2, and the 20 CV that they also do on their liner lock versions is also a very good blade steel. TRM has shown time and time again that they know how to make an exceptionally good cutting tool, and this one is no different. I also would really like to see them do something with camo carbon fiber, because while you can replace the show side scale, you can't necessarily replace the inlay, and I think it would be really cool for them to come out with some limited edition versions that have a camo carbon inlay and then a camo carbon show side. That would be absolutely phenomenal. As it stands, this one is still very, very good. And so far, one of my favorite American-made knives under the $400 price point that I've checked out all year so far here in 2025. So obviously I love the TRM Neutron 2 frame lock, but now I'm curious, what are your thoughts on this knife? Were you trying to get in on one? Are you going to try to get in on one of their releases? Or for some reason, is it going to be a pass for you? Let me know in the comment section down below, guys. And by the way, if you enjoyed this video and you haven't done so yet, please consider hitting that subscribe button that's about to pop up in the corner. But of course, if you just want to watch some more awesome knife and EDC content, go ahead and click on one of the videos that pops up next.